We meet today under extraordinary circumstances. We have Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor. My sincerest congratulations to you. You must feel awfully good today.
Yeah, thank you.
Huh?
Yeah, all told, I mean, if you just pile it all together, we could probably float a balloon. Yeah.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. You want to take him off the table because I'm getting fiercely jealous.
Yeah, well, I think, but yeah, it was certainly a nice evening. I was fortunate enough to be there last year, but also we didn't get Best Picture or Director, so I know the feeling of going away empty and the feeling of going away with your hands full.
When you were shooting $1 Million Baby, when you were in the midst of it during those 37 days, did it ever occur to you, individually or collectively, that you were making a movie that had the potential to earn 7 Academy Award nominations and that would earn for you 4 Oscars? Did it ever cross your mind, or was it just not?
I don't think you think about things. You can't. It's, you know, the Academy Awards is a contest, and we're not making movies to enter contests. You know, we're just doing what we like to do. On the one hand, and we're working. It's a job. It's a profession. On the other hand, but to go into it thinking, okay, this ought to be good for an Academy Award or this or that, I don't think it's very productive. So I never do. I don't think you can get that far into it.
But did it surprise you, Morgan, the reception to this film? Did you think that it might have that kind of reception? I'm talking about the respect that's been accorded it. I'm not talking about winning Oscars.
I'm always mildly surprised if I'm involved with any project that is well received. Even if I'm working with Clint, you know, when we were doing Unforgiven, I came away from that thinking this isn't going to go very far. We were having entirely too much fun. Yeah, no, and then I don't know where I was somewhere outside the country when I heard some of the reviewers talking about it's a classic, da 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 da. So, oh my goodness, you know.
Well, as a member of the audience, as somebody who just sits there and watches the film, let me tell you, I think you guys have earned every ounce of the glory that you've received. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
When you're young, you're reckless. Then you get very conservative. Then you get reckless again. In which phase does $1 Million Baby belong?
It's I'm not reckless. I'm just doing what feels right. I don't think too much about it. One thing I've been blessed with is not the ability to think too much about it. So I just kind of move with the thing. I like what I like, and I don't sit there and say, now why do I like it? I just like it. And you read a book, you like it. I read Mystic River as a synopsis of a book that was forthcoming by Dennis Lane. I said, I like this story. I like this story. I got to get this book. And I read it in 2 sittings. It was great. And so I just liked it. I said, I want to do this. And that's as simple as it gets.
Did you work with Haggis at all on the screenplay? Or?
You know, a little bit. We talked briefly. I hadn't met him, but we did sit down and have a meeting. He was, and I told him I liked the screenplay. And he said, well, whatever you want to do. What do you want to do to it? Do you want to do a rewrite thing? I said, yeah. You know, I don't think I want to do a rewrite.
Have you ever had an experience on any other film where it was all white pages? No pink, no yellow, no blue, no fifth revisions, no... Ever?
Yeah, once.
With Clint?
Killings, yeah, with Clint.
Of course,
yeah.
But I mean with any other director.
No.
Doesn't exist, does it?
It doesn't exist.
No.
I've gotten all the way to Marigold, and then after Marigold, I think you go back to white.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I change things as we go, and I'm as things start evolving, as you watch the actors start bringing their elements to the story, you all of a sudden think, hey, that's great. I like the way she does this, or I like the way he does that, and the way he says this. And pretty soon, so it's never just a architectural blueprint drawn to a certain scale. It's always got a little bit of free form to it. And so you're always molding it a little bit, and that's just the way I shoot. I shoot much more improvisational than a lot of people think.
That's what I was going to say. You definitely felt that freedom to there was something in
Really to
Yeah.
improvise?
Yeah.
Well, you're not in a box, you know.
If you
that's
felt
what
the
I'm saying.
instinct
Yeah,
to say something.
Characters do the same thing to actors that they do to writers sometimes, you know. They'll step out and just take their own way.
Yeah.
And it's always been my experience, the great director sees that and allows that, you know. I've had him tell me, look, just stick to the script, will you? And I just shut down, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
I remember that scene when I jump up on Clint. I just did it. That's the moment I just did it. And he was great. That line that he said right after, he was right there with it.
Hilary, you're an ingenue.
Yes.
So I'm going to add, if I may, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about
Please.
yourself. What got you to Los Angeles?
Acting. My mom was at a crossroads in her life, and I had been acting from the age of 9. I was doing school plays, and my mom knew that I really wanted to do it, and she said, let's go to Los Angeles. Let's go to Hollywood, is actually what she said.
Really?
Yeah. She said, that's where we need to go in order for you to do this.
How'd you get there?
We drove down to Hollywood in this car, Delta Oldsmobile Supreme, I think is what it's called. And
How much money did you have in your pocket?
$75, $75. And we had a mobile card, you know, the gas station card that we would go in and eat off of sometimes, go into the deli and get it's a sandwich or whatever. But for the most part, we stretched that $75 for all it was worth, sharing Grand Slam Denny's breakfasts and things like that. It was great. It was great. You know, I think somewhere in my 15th year and living my dream. I was going to live this dream. So
And maybe someday be an actor.
that's right.
Somehow.
That's right.
And get a part sometime.
That's right.
But
So
no dreams of Oscar, I'm sure.
no, just at that point, it was, can I get an agent? And I remember my mom going into Samuel French and buying, you know, using some of that, like $9.99 of that $75 to buy an agent's book. Has all the agents in town, and going to a phone booth, putting the quarter in and dialing up, and they'd say, "Well, we need a resume." Didn't have a resume.
Headshots.
Need headshot. Didn't have that. You know, we'll call you back. Didn't have a phone. And we finally hit one that was my mom, you know, she's amazing. She's like, my daughter's beautiful and really talented. You should meet her. And I remember going into Harry Gold, that was the agency, and they had me read a McDonald's commercial, and they signed me.
just like that.
Just like that. If that's not fate, I mean, what's that?
What made you feel that you had inside you something that would enable you to inhabit Maggie's body and her soul?
Well, you know, it's a kind of a question that I'll answer in two ways. One, I felt the closest to Maggie that I've ever felt to any character I've ever played. I mean, similar backgrounds, you know, similar, just the idea of having a dream and being really disciplined and diligent and focused, but also lucky and having someone, you know, that believes in you. But then there was the flip side of it of this scares me. This is, you know, this is such a challenge, such a physical and emotional challenge. That thing that happens as actors that you just think, you know, am I going to mess this up? Can I do this? That great thing that you feel.
Did you sustain any injuries during the shoot of $1 Million Baby?
Minor, you know, I have this shoulder kind of still gives me little like, ooh, you know, but other than that, you know, I had a blister that, you know, you're always pivoting.
Yeah.
So I would get huge blisters the size of my palm on my ball of my foot.
God.
And then I would sometimes get a blister on a blister. Didn't think it was possible. And I did get staph infection because I would pop them myself because I couldn't turn on it.
This is not a frivolous question. Do you think you could take these guys?
No. Are you kidding?
What do you
Take
guys
me
think?
in a
What?
She could take me.
I mean in the boxing ring.
And anywhere, yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, she's trained. She knows how. She knows how to take a punch. She knows how to throw a punch. She knows how to move. I don't know nothing about it.
Tell me about acting with Hilary Swank, sir.
I think there are the only, maybe there's more, but to me there's two ways of acting. There's acting, and then there's reacting. Personally, I don't like acting. I think it's too much work. Reacting is no work at all. It's living, and I go along with Clint. I've seen her work, so I know how good she is as an actress. I know what shape she was in when she got to the set, so I know about her work ethic. And so I'm on set with someone who I know all I have to do is listen and respond.
On Inside the Actors Studio, after nearly 11 years, I think that the one question that has evoked an unanimous agreement is, when you're acting, how important is listening? I'd like to ask you next.
I don't think you can actually call yourself acting if you're not listening. I don't know what
But
you're doing.
really listening, because people
No, you have
listen
to
to each other on the street.
really listen. If Hilary and Clint and I do a scene 17 times, every time you have to be listening. You know what I do sometimes?
What?
With some actors? They'll say a line and I'll say, just to see where they go.
Yeah.
So if they repeat themselves, then they were listening.
I got you. You?
Listening's everything. Everything. So I was just listening to you ask me a question. How was I going to answer it unless I was listening?
Exactly. Clint?
Yeah, it's it's the essence of acting, really, is listening, because you can't react unless you listen properly. And there's a million tricks in acting, a million tricks to free yourself up. But listening intently is probably the easiest one, because if you sit down and a run through and you start really absorbing what's going on, you can't be bad.
Yeah. Scrap possesses your trademark gravitas. We talked about it when you were on Inside the Actors Studio. It's a gift. You have to be born with that. And you are. People talk all the time about how Morgan can do everything while he apparently is doing nothing. And that's a gift. That can't be learned or taught. But it has its disadvantages for you from time to time, doesn't it? I mean, people come to you for gravitas.
Any box, any box you find yourself in, is sometimes gonna cause you difficulties. You know, it's personal. You know, because you want to be able to break out of that. You know,
as you did in your first role, your first movie role.
Yeah.
Remember?
Exactly. Oh yes, exactly.
You were a mean son of a gun.
Yeah, I really liked him.
You can't teach it. You can't. You can't. Like you're saying, you're going to be born with it, but it's actually not quite that simple. You can really be. You can only teach yourself. You can only learn the technique of learning. You can't. You have to absorb it yourself. And everybody has a different. The approaches are all different, but they all come out the same place.
Do you two know about Morgan's secret dance life?
I know about it.
You do?
Yeah.
I've heard about it, but I'd like to hear more.
Where'd you study dance?
Well, I started. Actually started in San Francisco. I mean, I was in Los Angeles, taking acting at LACC, and the curriculum called for dance movement. My teacher said that I had talent or potential or something, and that I should pursue it, because actors who can sing and dance, of course, have that much more of a chance of getting work. So I fully intend to be one of those. So I went into it, and eventually wound up in San Francisco doing repertory theater. We did all musicals.
Yeah.
And I got deeper and deeper into dance, and then I started taking it as a professional. So I took ballet and jazz and tap dance.
With whom did you study jazz?
I actually wound up in New York with Matt Maddox.
Great dancer, great
wonderful,
teacher.
wonderful dancer, and a great instructor. I mean, he was just like kind of like meeting Clint. He was the niche that I needed to really get into dance.
And you danced, didn't you, in the World's Fair in New York?
Yeah, I danced at World's Fair. I did a lot of those little, what we call them, like presentations. You go off to Brooklyn somewhere into a school, and someone has a recital to do. You know, they hire them.
What specific dance was it? Like,
We did a lot of folk dance stuff. We did a lot of modern dance stuff. I never had to. I was never really a dancer. I was always an actor who could move well.
Morgan, you've called yourself an intuitive actor. Can you explain how Scrap evolved? Was what Haggis gave you in the script sufficient, or do you look elsewhere to find your character?
Maybe it depends more on the script than I do anything else except costume. But yeah, I just lift the character right off the page most of the time. The only reason I have to do anything different is if I'm playing someone and you recognize, you know, if they're living or have lived recently enough, then you have to do the research to get the mannerisms and all that. Otherwise, I just depend on the writer.
What actors on stage, on screen, have taught you the most? One
Which
or two
actors
have taught you the most, watching them, that you like to watch?
I think, for specific reasons, that the one I learned the most from was Stacy Keach. And the reason for that is that my first professional job was with Stacy, and I'd gone through all of this classes and scene study, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it was just seemed so difficult. And then I started working on this play, doing a play with Stacy and Vivica, and just watching how, why they're not, you know, they're just doing the material here. You're not sitting around intellectualizing yourself so much. You know, we can talk about what the character is after and go for that, but just watching them work is what like freed me up. You know, I'm trying to fit into someone else's mold is what was my problem.
Clint is famous for the way he begins and ends each take. Tell me how you feel about that. Hilary, let me hear from you, and then
I think it's great. I think before I started working with Clint, I heard that, you know, I hear the reason why he does that is because, you know, he started in Westerns, and to say action, you spook the horse. And that's why he says, okay, whenever you want. So I said to Clint, is that true? And Clint said, actually, not really. He said, the person on the horse squeezes the horse. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
And
it's a subconscious thing.
it's
You
not the
just
horse.
Slightly tighten up, and the horse feels.
It's the person
It's feeling
tightening
to
up.
go. Yeah.
That's right. And so if then why make anyone tense up like that? Just ease into it. I thought that sounded pretty darn great.
I never heard why he did. That's always seems to me when we did Unforgiven there, the first assistant always said action. Clint never said a word.
If there's a sequence that needs coordination between the extras and background and whatever everything else, I always have the assistant.
Or if you're in the scene.
You know. But if it's in a scene, I don't. You know, if it's an intimate kind of scene, I just say go or start or when you're ready, or what have you.
Right.
But,
And he never says.
but if
he
it's
never
like
said
on
cut.
you, if the
I never
camera's
heard
on
him
you,
say
someone
cut.
else is going to have to say it.
Oh yeah, if it's on me, then I just when they yell speed, I just start in when I feel like it. But it's just a slight thing, and most good actors can hide it so well. But there's a slight little tension that goes by with somebody, especially when you get one of these directors who feels he's got to be Erich von Stroheim and scream action at the top of their lungs, and there's just and I just don't like that. I like the actor to be able to crescendo into the take.
Yeah. When Meryl Streep, who received an Academy Award nomination for her performance under your guidance in Bridges, Madison County, was on Inside the Actors Studio, she told on you. Do you remember what she reported to us? It had to do with a love scene in which you were also addressing the camera. Do you remember what she said?
Not exactly, no, but she's a very fine actress.
She was a very fine actress, and she said that it was this wonderful love scene. He was doing this remarkable job, and she suddenly felt something behind her as they were lying down and they were embracing, and it was Clint doing this to the camera. Do you remember that?
No.
She did. Meryl also said that after you shot the scene in which you broke down in that film with her, she scolded you for turning your back on the camera when the tears came. And she remembers saying, "How can you do that? That's the Oscar nomination shot." And you explained to me that you feel it's more important for the audience not to see than to see. Is that a case?
The audience will feel with you. They feel the emotions if they're properly motivated, and you don't have to necessarily stick your face right in the lens and say, "Look at me, I'm crying, I'm Margaret O'Brien, I'm 10 years old," or something like that. It's you don't have to do that. I'm only making fun, not making fun of Margaret O'Brien. She was a brilliant child actress, but that's the way they hired her, because her ability to cry on cue. Anybody can cry in a scene. All you have to do is think of something unpleasant enough in your life. But it's the thing is what they don't see a lot of times, and I do that in lighting. I don't have people lit all the time, because sometimes it's what you don't see that stirs the imagination more than teases the imagination.
Yeah. Was Scrap's voiceover narration in the screenplay from the beginning, I'll ask you?
Yeah.
It was always there.
It was always there.
Once it was there, once you knew you had it there, the film's point of view, we discover, of course, as the film goes on, is his point of view.
Yeah.
Did that influence the way in which you shot it?
Yeah, he is the audience, and as the participating audience member, and as the narrator, and we turns out that he's writing a letter based upon all these experiences, and yeah, it wasn't necessarily that way in the FX Tool story, but Paul Haggis did a very clever thing, is he brought the Scrap character in from outside of the original $1 Million Baby story.
It was another story, wasn't
yes,
it? Yeah.
It was another story, and so he brought it in, and he brought in the narrative thing. Now, I don't know whether what inspired him, or whether it's because Morgan has done it before in movies and does it so well, or because he is gifted with a wonderful sounding voice.
This film is full of startling revelations. It is the most deceptive film because it seems to be going its merry way, and then it turns another corner, turns another corner. I love motion pictures where you can't outguess the movie, but one of the most startling revelations in it occurs in the last 60 seconds when we discover why Scrap has been narrating the film. Not only that, but he's never been talking to us in the audience. He's talking to somebody else. I'll leave it to the person viewing this DVD to understand who he's talking to. But I think that's, no, I won't say genius, I'm not allowed. That's too much. It's genius.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to say to you, Clint, that terminology of this film, that's a knockout.